Right, this part of the build concentrates on step 1 in the instruction manual, and we're using items from bag number 1. We're going to be assembling the steering rack with the 2 bell cranks. Note the left hand bell crank has got 2 holes in it. Now these parts actually come on a tree, so you've got the little bit to trim off. They usually leave a tiny little bit of a spur, so it's worth trimming them neatly with a craft knife and then using a bit of sandpaper or a file just to smoothen them off, just to give you a nicer, more finished look. So first of all, we're going to take the steering rack, and to the steering rack we're going to insert these bearings. Now these bearings are 4 by 7 by 2.5 millimeters, and it's just worth noting that they've got a blue rubber seal on one side and they are metal shielded on the other side. It doesn't tell you in the instructions which way to put these. Myself, I always like to make sure that if there's a rubber shield, that's facing towards the outside to where there could be any dirt. So as they're going to be bearings top and bottom, I'm going to make sure that when they're inserted, the blue rubber shield is the bit facing out. Right, they're just a really nice press fit into there. Fit really snugly, they're not going to fall out. Hopefully they will allow the parts to rotate freely. So there we go. I've got the 4 bearings into the steering rack, and then what we're going to do, it's marked top. You probably can't see it in this video, but it does clearly show you in the instructions. So it's marked which is the top side, and it's also teaches the orientation. So this is the front. So what we're going to do there is from the front we're going to insert a ball stud into each of the holes on the little Mickey Mouse ears, and these are the ball studs we're using. There we go. Now they've got an 8mm thread on them, and what's also quite nice is they've got a hole in the end and they do fit a hex driver. Now all these parts are in bag 1, and it does also tell you to fit a 1mm, dropped it, there we go, 1mm, and it's a blue anodized aluminium spacer. So I'm going to fit that over the thread on the ball stud, and then from the front I'm going to put that into, and they're threading really nicely. You can feel the quality of these components. So I'm not going to put any effort on there, and it's just threading itself nicely in to that plastic part. And I've just pinched it up finger tight. So I'll take the other one, making sure not to forget the aluminium washer that goes on. Insert the hex drive, and again, yep, it starts really easily and it just threads in. So once we've got this in, there we go, just nipped it up. So with the top facing up on the steering rack, what we're going to do first of all, without any washer, we're taking the 5mm ball stud, just there. We're going to put the hex driver in the end, and this is going to go into the second hole in the left bell crank. It's going in from the top, and again, just as with the previous parts, these threads self-start and they're going really nicely. There we go, just a tiny little pinch, and then what we do now, got these little top hats, so the top hats go in from the bottom through the bearings, then we put 12mm button head M3 in, and then onto that we're just going to thread that into the hole on the left hand bell crank. There we go. I've just nipped that down. Now you can see no resistance at all, so those bearings are working perfectly. I'm going to do exactly the same to the other side. So top hat in from the bottom, M3 12mm button head in from the bottom, and then there's only one hole for the right hand side bell crank, and again that's just going to thread the M3 button head into the bell crank, just nip it up, and again that feels really nice. So there we go, we've got completed steering rack with ball races, got the bell cranks fitted, and we've got the ball studs in. That completes step 1, so tune in for step 2.